is a Tab Media special report on concerns about public libraries in the state of Alabama. I'm your host, Jennifer Rash, and joining me is a concerned mother and grandmother, Cindy Battles. Welcome, Cindy.
Hey, Jennifer. Thank you for having me today.
All right. Cindy has been researching and getting involved in this topic for about 6-8 months now, I think. Maybe longer.
Actually, we really didn't start until after November, so it's
not
fairly
quite,
new to
not quite 6 months. Okay.
Quite.
And the news has been reporting on some of this through the late last year, early this year, regarding concerns about certain material in the children's sections of our public libraries. This is not new, really. There's other states that have been dealing with it, but it's just kind of come to we've noticed it in Alabama lately, and more people are talking about it. The reason we've decided to start talking about it here with Tab News and Tab Media is that there's an April 30 meeting that is of the utmost importance related to this topic. And so we thought this was a good time. We're about 10 days out from that meeting, and the director of the Alabama Public Library Service, Nancy Pack, is wanting to hear from the citizens of Alabama, basically, about how they feel about this topic, so that when they meet on April 30, they will have more information and responses to make some decisions that are going to come before their board. So now, what does it all mean, right? And how do we know what to do? That's why I've got Cindy here with us, so that we can kind of talk through all of this and think about it and determine how we might want to respond, if we want to respond. Does it matter? Why does it matter? What should we think about it? Anyway, we're just trying to get some of this distilled down for you, so you can be aware, you can be informed, and then you can make your own decision about how you would like to handle this. Okay, Cindy, well, let's kind of unpack all of this to figure out what's happening. We'll start with exactly why this April 30 meeting is being talked about and why people are looking toward that. So back in the fall, Governor Ivey addressed some concerns that were brought to her attention regarding content that's in our libraries. So I've got her letter here, and I'm going to read a little bit. It was dated October the 4th, 2023, and Governor Ivey is sending this letter to Dr. Nancy Pack, the director of the Library Service, the Alabama Public Library Service. The letter is pretty lengthy. I'm just going to read a couple things. She said the core problem that she's concerned about is the exposure of children and youth to inappropriate materials without adequate means of parental supervision. In my view, the common sense approach would be to require local libraries to adopt their own policies governing the location and promotion of content that they deem inappropriate for children. And she goes on and has a lot of different parts and pieces to the policies and concerns. But Cindy, talk to me a little bit about why you got involved and how what she's saying here, these what she's calling inappropriate materials. Tell us a little bit about that and how that caught your radar.
Well, I had a friend of mine that called me and said that she just kind of was in the library one day looking for a meeting space, and she found some books in the children's section that concerned her. And so she thought, well, we need to really look and see what's going on here. And she'd probably heard maybe some things that were going on in other parts of the state. So we kind of undertook an endeavor, and this actually started right around Thanksgiving, and just kind of looking to see what were in certain libraries. And I think we checked 3 or 4 libraries in the Jefferson County area. And then we kind of zeroed in on the Trussville Public Library. And during Thanksgiving and during the Christmas holidays, we came up with a list of books that we thought might be concerning, and we actually got those books. A lot of the books came from a site called booklooks.org. Okay. This was a group that a lot of Moms for Liberty had reviewed these books, so there was a lot of information available to us without reading the books completely and trying to figure out which books we really need to be looking at. It gave us a starting point. And so we searched not only the public library, but also our Trussville City Schools libraries. And we did this during the holidays. And we actually got through all the libraries and to kind of see what of those books that we have on our list, what books we were looking at, and it was concerning. I mean, it was the content in these books is just hard to even tell you. It's almost one of these things you have to see to believe. And so we thought, well, we can't let this stand. We have to move with this. And so our had a friend of mine that took 40-something books to the Trustful library, and she said, I'm concerned about these books being in our library. And they said, well, typically we would ask you to write a review on each one, but we'll just take these books and we'll do the reviews for you, which
Okay.
was kind of really off script for them, but they did that. And that's actually how our process got started in Trustful. But we have found along the way that this is a difficult battle because we can't. They found out in Prattville. Prattville's been working on this for over a year now, and they realized when they were working in that city that a library board member can't be removed. There's no state law that allows them to be removed from the board, and so they just kept dealing with these books. Every month they would just come back and to their library board. They were writing them letters. Finally, all of their board just resigned, and so they were able to get a different board, and were able to get some policy changes. There is the other side that they don't like people messing with the status quo, I guess, of the libraries right now, and their talking points are that we want to burn books, we want to ban books, we want censorship. And I just want to say that's not what this is all about.
Okay.
This is just about protecting our children, providing a safe place for our kids.
Right.
I mean, our cities are really good about their city parks. They're always clean, they're a safe place to go, and kids can just enjoy themselves and be themselves while they're there. Libraries should be that same thing for our children. Our children should be able to go in the library, pull books off the shelf, be excited about reading without parents having to hover and be afraid of what they're going to pull off the shelf. I mean, my daughter homeschools her 4 children, and she says, we don't go to the library. She said, we haven't been to the library in years. She said, it's not a safe place. She said, I can't be there and watch everything they're pulling off the shelf. And she said, once they see something, it can't be unseen. And so that's why I'm involved.
So it's more about restricting access.
Yes.
For what some parents might deem inappropriate. Now, granted, public libraries are funded by the federal government and are part of Community for All People. And so people will disagree on what is inappropriate. Some will be okay with content that others will not. So with that said, it's an interesting journey to navigate. How do you be all things to all people? But then within that, what are some of the issues that could be concerning? And that's where you've outlined those. Governor Ivey outlined those, and some more from her letter. She said she was concerned that while we recognize that there are going to be materials that some find offensive and others don't, she was concerned that all of the responsibility was left up to the parents to have to police those shelves, like you're talking about. Could they not just a child walk in the library and pull books, and a parent not be concerned what they might see? Because that's right. Once they see something or read something,
well,
what
it
do you do with
actually
that?
happened just a week ago. This child was in Prattville.
Okay.
Who thought that they had cleared their library and moved those books to another section. He actually came in with his school on a field trip and pulled a book off the shelf that was shocking to him.
Really?
And they realized that it was actually a donated book that had just been recently donated to that library and put on the shelf without, I guess, knowledge of that being on the shelf. But that's just a case in point.
Mm,
You know, a parent may or may not always be there, and it's, you know, we need to
right,
help our parents with,
right.
I guess, helping them navigate our world today, because
Hmm.
it's a difficult world for parents and children today.
I understand that for sure. Governor Ivey goes on to say parents should be confident that the materials available in children's sections are, in fact, suitable for children, and children should have their freedom to wander freely in a children's section without being exposed to harmful materials. Again, the description of harmful materials will be different for different parents, but it is definitely something that all parents need to be concerned about and realize and be part of. This is a good time to just kind of realize what's happening. And I think about maybe people who have not been in the library for years and years and years, and maybe don't really even think about what's in the library. Is this something that's important to uh, families for whatever reason, parents, grandparents, church communities, that kind of thing? So, a good opportunity right now is to just kind of introduce yourself to your public library and decide, what's in there, and is this okay, and how are they working, and how do these books get in there? That's where my mind went to, is how does a book get on a shelf anyway, right? And so actually we looked that up, and it's not exactly the same for everybody, but basically the general routine is that a patron or a staff member will recommend a book, and then it goes through this screening process to determine if it's a relevant book for that particular library's constituency base. And so they look at the community needs, the suitability of subject and style for their audience, the cost, of course, because they have to work within a budget, um, relation to what they already have. So is it already covered enough? They may not add to it. They look for critics and reviews and how awards that are being won with, different things that are honored, which again, there's a whole topic about that, because I know there's a whole level of potentially, lack of a better word, a kind of made up honor in order to get some recognition. So those are always concerning too. And then the appeal to the user is considered. They look at artistic presentation, they look at interest, they look at representation of important movements and trends. And so all of that plays into how a book gets on a shelf. But one of the things that's highlighted several times is the concerns of the community. So, so these books are on shelves, and apparently, y'all are finding out decades long. Some of these,
Yes.
is that accurate? That y'all are
Yes,
finding out.
it is.
So, in a sense, the community didn't speak into some of these things initially, and now that's starting to come to light. What are some ways you think, Cindy, that as a concerned citizen you could be involved? I know you've got a letter campaign going right now that ties back to this April 30 meeting. So tell us a little bit about that and some other ways you think parents and grandparents and just people of faith all around could get involved.
Right. Well, Governor Ivey, I guess, gave us a big lift as far
Mm-hmm.
as when she requested some policy changes to Nancy Pack. Nancy Pack is the director of our Alabama State Library Association, and she just she's asking for 4 policy changes. One of them, that they relocate sexually explicit or inappropriate material for children into another area. Not to censor it, not to ban it, just to relocate it so children don't just happen upon this material. She asked that there be advanced approval before they recommend or display or promote certain kinds of material in the library. She's asked also that they get prior approval in a public hearing before they spend money with the ALA, with the American Library Association. They're actually they're an association that provides continuing education and support to librarians. They're not a government association. They're a group. They've been around since, I believe, in the 70s, and they've kind of morphed over the last few years into an activist group. And
Do libraries have to be part of an organization like that?
No, they do not.
Okay, so that's just a support.
It's helpful. It's not
Okay,
like a professional organization,
Okay.
but this group has pushed their agenda, basically.
Okay.
And that's the reason a lot of times I think we have the books that we have in our library is this push from the American Library Association. And I think that Governor Ivey was probably pretty astute in saying maybe we need to take another look at the ALA.
Okay.
And so she asked the Alabama Library Board to disassociate with them, and they have. They did not renew their membership. And so she's also asking that each individual library look at that same option. That she was just saying that, you know, maybe the ALA is not a good place to be spending the funds because of their obvious agenda.
Okay.
And then one other thing was just to be able to consider age when they're purchasing and shelving books.
Okay.
At this time, our librarians, almost every library in our state, uses the American Library Association's Bill of Rights.
Okay.
And that Bill of Rights says that they can't discriminate by age. And so as far as a librarian, as far as they're concerned, they feel like a child should be able to access anything in the library. It should be appropriate for them, and that it's not their job as a librarian to deem anything appropriate or inappropriate. That should come down to the parent.
Okay.
So they just think it's not our job. They have the ALA saying you need to put these. We're recommending these books. The ALA has given awards to a lot of these books, which puts them basically on a buy list for our libraries. And so it's like they've given the award, so they're pushing these books, and that's why we have a lot of these books in our library. Is just the American Library Association's agenda. But then Governor Ivey's saying, well, let's take another look at that. Maybe the ALA isn't what we need in the state of Alabama. And she said we see their Alabama or their Bill of Rights in every library, and she said basically that not looking at age when you're looking at material just doesn't fit Alabama. That we should look at it age and to see what's appropriate for our children. And when we're talking about a lot of these books, it's when we say inappropriate, it's really hard to even talk about, but just the language in the books it's hard to read. I mean, there's one book, and it's a teen book. I think it's 543 pages long, and they use the F word over 500 times in this book.
Goodness.
So it's the language. We don't want our children using that language. They can't use it at school. It can't be used in the workplace. But then we're filling their literature with this type of language. But Governor Ivey has given us. She asked them to make these changes to policies, and so the library board, the state library board, is saying, okay, let's hear from our citizens and see what they think. Okay. That's what the letter writing campaign is all about. They want to hear from us to see if we agree with these changes or if we don't. That's all.
That's straight up what it is, basically.
That's what it is. Do we agree or do we think that changes do not need to be made?
Okay. Or maybe different changes.
Right, right.
Okay. And so Governor Ivey's proposed an amendment to the Alabama Public Library Services Library Development Division. Administrative Code, I think is the right way to say that. But she's proposing an amendment that the board will review, and they're going to be listening to all the feedback to decide if they're going to approve these amendments, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And so she's got what you've already outlined, pretty much the concept of physical location or relocation of sexually explicit or other material deemed inappropriate for children or youth, advance approval of materials recommended, displayed, or otherwise actively promoted to children or youth, And then the other items that you mentioned about discretion in the location and the funds and where those go. Now, part of this also means that if a library does not follow said administrative code, so all the items that are already there plus potentially these new ones, they could risk losing funding.
Right. That's what
Correct?
she said.
Yes.
She tied these changes to their funding. I think
Right.
Alabama, it's like $6.6 million, and then that's divided out
Okay.
among the 200 or so libraries in our state.
Right.
And she's saying, make these changes, these policies, and if these libraries don't make these policies, they don't get their funding.
Okay.
So she's, so they're giving us a chance to say, yes, we want these changes, or no, we don't want these changes.
That's
so
right. And she goes on to say, I agree that the decision of which books to obtain is a distinctly local issue, and I agree that books should not be banned from libraries based on unpopular opinions or content. Libraries should be a place for exploring a wide variety of viewpoints and ideas. At the same time, however, libraries must not be a place to expose children to inappropriate content without the knowledge and consent of their parents. Libraries should listen to parents when it comes to what content is openly available in children's sections of libraries. So staying very focused on that concept is where all of this is going to circle. So there's so many different parts and layers to all of this, and I know there's concerns even beyond this one aspect, but it does seem like anyone who is concerned, they can check with their community library to just start the conversation. Know your library director, find out how they think and what all happens, and just have that conversation. People can serve on library boards.
Most libraries have a group called Friends of the Library.
Oh, that's right.
Good place to get involved.
That's right. And remembering that many people are working and serving in a library and following the policies and rules, and not necessarily out for some type of agenda. They're working and doing their job. So I think we also always want to remind people to be kind and gracious, and however we try to address this or have the conversation. But again, a good place would be to start with your local community library, and then also to consider reading through this letter that Cindy's written and see if you want to pull something from that to send along to Montgomery, and then you can do different things by emailing or writing a letter or showing up. It's actually in Montgomery on April 30th at 10 a.m. and they are allowing people to actually speak. I think they put a 3-minute limit on it, and you have to do that. You have to register in advance and all of that, but they are going to allow the public to share. Sometimes that is an interesting way to hear a lot of different viewpoints.
I think they have 70 speakers so far.
Ooh, they may be regretting opening that.
I think we're up to 5 hours or so.
Well, so they're not putting a time limit on it?
They said they would not, and that they would allow anyone that wanted to speak to speak.
Okay.
So,
do you think they will do a pro-con back and forth?
That would be nice, but they said that what they would do would be first come, first serve. So as the emails come in, that'll be the order that they allow people to speak.
Yeah, because I do think it's always important to make sure all sides are heard in any setting like this. So that's good that they are not putting a limit on that. So, all right. So I know we talked about a lot of different things, but the main point today is local public libraries, whether or not the children's section should be wide open for whatever content, or there should be some restrictions on location of content that might be deemed controversial to some level. And so if you'd like to make sure your voice is heard on that, we will have ways you can do that. We're going to have Cindy's sample letter if you'd like to review it and or just use it. And then we'll also just have the contact information that you'll need to get to the Alabama Public Library Service, its director, and the date and time and all of that at our office here at the Alabama Baptist. We're located in Homewood. You can find us online easily by doing an internet search for the Alabama Baptist, or you can go to tabmedia.group. We are functioning as Tab Media Group and have lots of different information, but we'll have all of this available to you. You also can give us a call if you're listening in, 205-870-4720. That's 205-870-4720. And just mention that you're needing the library information. If you do have to leave a message, we'll get right back to you. But reach out to us however you would like, if you just would like more information, and we'll keep following the story to let you know how it all turns out. Cindy, thank you for sharing with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right.
I appreciate it so much.
No problem. We will stay on the story and see what happens.
Great. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for listening.